This podcast contains explicit language and content and is for mature audiences only. If you're under 18, this show is more for your parents.
Ew. So, now that you have that mental image stuck in your head, put some music on and get back to doing your homework.
We are a longtime married couple who's decided to chronicle our personal adventures and share our sex-positive discussions as we navigate our way through the swinging lifestyle.
Care to join us?
Welcome to episode number 7 of the We Got a Thing podcast. I'm Mr. Jones.
And I'm Mrs. Jones, and it's Friday night, March 20th. We just got home from our wild and crazy Friday night date. We went to Costco.
Grocery shopping.
But then we went out to dinner at a really cool brewery and recovered with a nice vanilla porter and some yummy French fries and sandwiches.
I think we had some foreplay at the Costco because we were going down the aisle where the dish detergent is, and you said, do we need dish detergent? Because I'm the one that does the dishes. And you said, do we need dish detergent? And I said, yeah. And you said something about what kind. And I said, well, we need to get Dawn. And you said, well, it's twice as much. And I said, I'm not going to use anything but Dawn dishwashing liquid. And I think you got a little charge out of that.
I like it when you take a stand.
I'm a take control guy when it comes to doing the dishes.
Yes, so. You are. You have a method.
Yeah. So we survived another evening at Costco and had a good evening and decided we would podcast tonight.
And do you know what today is, Mr. Jones?
It's Friday.
It is March 20th. And you know what that means?
It's the first day of spring.
It is the first day of spring, although you wouldn't know because it's cold and rainy outside. It is exactly 3 months until we leave for Desire.
Oh, that's why you have the Desire shirt on
tonight.
Okay.
Yes.
I thought that was just kind of a coincidence, an added bonus.
Thank you for noticing.
Yeah, so if you go to our website and look at the pictures, Mrs. Jones is wearing the same shirt tonight that she had on there, the Desire Riviera Maya souvenir that we got last August, I believe, when we were there. So
I'm ready. I just need a little bit of a tan.
Yeah, you're a little bit pale.
I know.
Yeah. But the headphones kind of make up for the costume.
Yeah, the headphones are sexy, I'm sure.
Right. So it's good. Thank you for coming back and to another episode. And tonight we're going to, in our segment number 1 of Keeping Up with the Joneses, we've been quite busy.
We have.
In the lifestyle the past few weeks. So
yeah,
I feel
we've been getting out and about.
I feel like we're kind of, getting our mojo back.
Well, we've come out of hibernation. I mean, it's been a rough winter.
Yeah, it has been kind of nice in this part of the country. A little bit warm, and we know that the daylight, the clock's changed, and so that always helps.
It does. I like it when it's light at night.
Yeah. So the first thing that we did was we went to a meet and greet in the Northern Virginia suburb.
And this was a big one.
Yeah.
There were like 250 people there, I think.
Right. And we had not been to this meet and greet before. And we had reached out to a couple on SLS, I believe.
Right.
And they said something about they were going to go to this meet and greet. So we decided that we would go. And it was really kind of a nice facility. And the logistics and everything getting there and where it was okay. But there was a lot of people there, like you said, probably, a couple hundred people at least?
I think like over 200 people at RSVP'd, and I mean, that place was packed.
Right, and for context, this is really only the second meet and greet we've ever been to, right? Because the first one was a lot smaller. It was
a Girls Uncorked meet and greet, and there were only probably maybe like 12 couples there.
Right. So this is a completely different dynamic. Saturday night, 250 people. The room was small. And there were pool tables in the middle, and the traffic flow was a little bit awkward. I guess it wasn't too loud because the band or the music was coming from the room next door.
Right. Yeah. The dance floor was in a completely separate area.
Right. But I was a little bit overwhelmed just by all of that. We finally made our way to the bar and got something to drink, and that always helps.
It does. And we ran into a couple that we know at the bar, which was fun.
Yes, we got to catch up with them for a while. And then we met the couple that we had kind of reached out to on SLS and spent some time talking to them. But, they were mingling and talking with other people too. So it was an environment that, my personality is I'm kind of, I don't know, what's the right word? I'm more withdrawn, I guess, when you get into a situation.
Not withdrawn, but reserved. You're in a large crowd, yeah.
Right. And so we tried to kind of mingle and move around, and it seemed like, I don't want to over-assess this, but it seemed like there were lots of groups of people who already knew each other.
Yeah, I think there were.
And I think...
Because we didn't get there very late, but... Right. I think most people had already arrived by the time we got there. I think we got there around 9, and I think it started at 8.
Right. But the first meet and greet that we went to, the Girls Uncorked, of course it was much smaller, but when we got there, the host and hostess greeted us and introduced themselves.
They did a fantastic job.
And then they kind of took us around the room and introduced us to those that had been there before. And I thought that was, that's just what I needed, because, then people want to talk to you, they know who you are. And it kind of does a good job of breaking up conversations and cliques that might be kind of starting. But this one was so large, I'm not sure that the host, would have had an opportunity to do that.
And there were no name tags, so, you couldn't really just walk up and say, hey there, whoever, and just start striking up a conversation.
Right.
So, but we did run into, the couple that we had arranged to meet, and that was fun getting to talk to them. And then they knew some people that were there, so we got to meet them and talk with them. And we reconnected with a couple that we have spent time with before, and that was kind of fun. One interesting note about them, they are one of the couples that we have gotten to know that have a no kissing rule. And as we were talking to them, they have decided that the no kissing rule doesn't apply for them anymore. Yeah. So we were like, yay, do you want to get together again?
Right. And they listened to the podcast too. So we were a little bit concerned that, they might have taken that the wrong way.
But they seem to take it in the right spirit.
Yeah. And, so anyway, they don't have a no kissing rule anymore.
No, they don't. And it was just so much fun catching up with them. And it was kind of loud to kind of have that intimate conversation where you could really catch up with stuff. So we're looking forward to arranging to get together with them in an environment where we can actually talk and spend time together.
So as far as our things that we have, I'm not sure that a meet and greet of that size, we'll probably go back just to give it another chance and to get to know people.
But I don't think that's really our most comfortable venue as far as interacting with people and really getting to know them.
Right. And then another interesting thing that happened was we met another couple that actually knew us from our podcast.
Yes, they were at that meet and greet.
And that was a very, it was very flattering. It felt very odd. I didn't really know how to respond because it's never happened to us before, but the couple was really, really friendly and really nice.
And gorgeous.
Yeah, and they had made a comment. I think they had made a comment on our We Got a Thing page. So I knew that I knew who they were. And then when I said something about podcast, he got this big grin on his face, and it was very flattering and very complimentary, and made me think that, maybe we're doing this all wrong. Maybe we need to let this podcast do the work for us.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun, and they're a really cute couple, and it was really kind of good to see them as well. So hello to you guys. I know that you're listening. Didn't want to mention your names, but anyway, thanks for that. We
appreciate that, and we look forward to seeing you guys again soon.
Yeah, definitely. So was there anything else on that meet and greet?
No, I think that's it. I think we'll give it another try. I think kind of practice makes perfect. Mr. Jones and I did have a little bit of it wasn't a fight and it wasn't an argument, but we had kind of a different methodology for working the room. Mr. Jones, when he gets in a large crowd like that and it's loud and it's hard to move around and stuff, he likes to pick a spot, not necessarily in the corner, but kind of on the perimeter a little bit. And he likes to just stand and observe and try to kind of look around to find a couple that he finds intriguing that he might want to try to go up and talk to. I like to keep moving because I feel really uncomfortable when I stand still. I feel, I don't know if I feel like a wallflower. I don't know what I feel like, but it makes me feel uncomfortable. So I said something to him. We were standing there and he was doing his assessment, but when he does it, he gets really quiet. So I don't know what he's thinking.
Okay, if you're gonna tell this story, you
Okay,
gotta start from the beginning.
I think I did start from the beginning, honey. Here we go.
No, you didn't start from the beginning. Okay, so we were moving from the bar back into the room, and I said, okay, well, let's go see if we can find somebody to talk to, or you might have said that. And then you said, well, I want you to try to find somebody. And when you said that, I felt like all the pressure was on me. And then what happens was, you're right. Then what I do is I kind of stop, and I just like watching people. I like observing, the conversations and which people might tend to be more open to somebody kind of walking. So I'm doing this assessment, and I can tell that you're getting a little bit uncomfortable because we're just standing there, and I'm not talking to you at that point in time. I'm kind of just assessing the room.
Right.
Okay.
So I just kind of felt like I was left hanging, so to speak.
Right.
And I did ask Mr. Jones to pick out the couple, and it all goes back to the last podcast when we were talking about, soft swap, full swap, and I wanted to see him find somebody that he could just kind of lose himself in. I just really want him to find that couple where he finds the woman really, really intriguing.
Don't force her on me.
I'm not forcing her on you, but that's why I said that. It wasn't like I wasn't going to be satisfied until you found that person, but I don't want it to always be me picking out a couple to talk to.
Right.
So I didn't understand that I put undue pressure on you. It wasn't intended to be that way.
Well, right. And then
Can you tell we had a little bit of strife over this?
Well, I mean, overall, with the people that we did talk to and the couple that we met for the first time that I think we're going to try to go out with in the future, I mean, overall, we did meet people.
We did.
And we had a fair time. But when we got in the car to come home, it was kind of quiet there for a while until we finally worked through that little bit of awkwardness. But, and again, we don't really find ourselves in this situation because we've been together for 30 years. So we're dating as a couple instead of individuals.
With two different personalities.
Yeah.
Good
right,
grief.
Right. All right. Well, let's move on.
Yeah, we better move on. Okay. So last time we podcasted, I had just texted another couple, and I think I mentioned it while we were recording, that I just reached out to a couple that we have been with in the past and tried to reconnect with them, and they finally got back with us, and we had dinner with them about, a week ago, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that was really fun to catch up with them. We hadn't seen them since November.
Right.
And they're just as adorable as they were, and we actually spilled the beans to them that we have a podcast. This is really awkward trying to figure out, do we tell people, do we not tell people? Well, we don't want to keep it a big dirty secret, but
yeah, and they were really excited about it.
Yeah, they were,
and they even said, well, you can say our names if you want to.
Yeah, they did.
We still won't do that.
No.
But you had a good idea. You said maybe the four of us will podcast together because he told us that she was a radio personality.
Yes.
When she in school, or I can't remember where it was now.
Yeah, I think it was when she was in school, and you can tell she is just an extremely articulate person.
Yeah.
All of her enunciation is perfect, and so she could probably give us some lessons.
Yeah, but when I said something about doing a podcast together, and you said, yeah, we could all do it from the bed.
I know.
That's
even better.
That's not a bad idea.
I know.
Yeah, who's going to hold the microphone?
So we had a blast, and they're talking about having another small house party maybe next month. So we're hoping to be invited to that. Hint, hint, if you're listening.
And what I liked about that evening was, even though we had not seen them since we started the podcast, probably November or October, it was like we just picked right up where we left off.
Right.
And these are the types of kind of relationships we're building in the lifestyle. People are just genuine, they're warm. You know about them and they know about you. And so, it was really just a very comfortable and a fun evening. So looking forward to seeing them outside the restaurant maybe next time.
Yeah. They had done some fun stuff. They ended up going to Europe on travel for his business, and she got to go with him. And they ended up with a little bit of downtime, and they went to Amsterdam and went to
that's right.
They went to a couple sex clubs in Amsterdam, and the stories they told were just intriguing and hilarious.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We should save that because
I know.
I like the story that they told about what they did with Tinder as well.
Yeah, that's true.
So we'll save that.
Yeah.
Because they might want to tell that story.
They're a very cool couple.
Yeah, very adventurous.
Yes.
It was very fun listening to them. So that was the second thing that we did. What else do we need to share about keeping up with the Joneses?
Well, we went to a vanilla marriage conference last weekend with 3 other couples, actually with Mr. Jones's brother and his wife, and 2 other couples that we're friends with, and had a good weekend. Mr. Jones and I had been to it a couple times before, but the last time we went to it was like 10 years ago.
Yeah, like I told the lady, she keeps bringing me back because I can't figure
I
this
know.
marriage
Keep
thing
hoping
out.
he'll get it right.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, it was very fun because the other 3 couples we were with had never been before, and it was just it's just a good, relaxing weekend, and it's a marriage conference designed to make healthy marriages stronger and better. It's not to fix problems or anything like that. So it's very lighthearted, and at the same time, they really focus on communication and looking inside of yourself, to make sure that your motives are pure and that you're really dedicated to your marriage.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about that at the end of the show because we're going to try to weave that into a future episode.
So that was a very, very vanilla event, and it ended on Sunday at noon. So we actually snuck out like 15 minutes early because we had to get to a swinger meet and greet after that.
Yeah, I'm starting to learn that these meet and greets they're all shapes, forms, and sizes, and locations, and personalities. And so we keep getting invited to these meet and greets. And this one happened to be very unique. And it was at a winery. And it's at a winery it's
like a wine club swinger meet and greet group.
Right. And it was only 20 minutes from home. So we said, well, we can't pass this up.
I know. And it's a winery that we go to all the time.
Right. And so it was for people over 40, right? It
was, they only invite people. It was through SLS, right?
Yes.
So that I guess somehow they found our profile and they only invite you if you're both over 40.
Right.
So it's a grown-up meet and greet.
We barely qualify.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so we rushed out of we left our friends and said, bye, we'll see you. We're on our way to well, we didn't say that.
No, we just said we're sneaking out early to beat the traffic.
Yeah, we went to the winery and we were kind of we were curious to know whether, because this winery has a really, really big tasting room, but off to the side, there's a smaller room, which is where this group was going to be. And we go there frequently. So we thought we might see people in the main tasting room.
And a lot of my work friends go there.
Right.
A lot. And they go often. So I was so afraid I was going to walk in there and there's going to be all my coworkers.
Right. So we had our trench coats and sunglasses when we walked in. And the coast was clear. So we had a good time. This was this type of atmosphere was much more what I'm comfortable with. Again, there were about 20 couples maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
Right.
It was just right for me.
And as soon as we walked in, there was a little bit of awkwardness because no one knew us, and so when we drifted
we were late.
Yeah, we were, and when we got into that room, they kind of looked at us like, okay, I wonder if these people know what they're walking into. And I don't recall how the conversation went, but...
Well, finally the host said, so do you have what's your screen name? So he was talking about our SLS screen name. So, then we said something about SLS and he said, okay, you're in the right place.
Oh, okay. Right. Yeah. And so we talked to just about everybody there. We were there for a few hours and, drinking wine and mingling and that type of room. There was music in the next room, but it was acoustic music and it was kind of soft and it was a beautiful day.
Yeah, I thought the setting was perfect. Some of the people had brought food, so they had a table with snacks out there, and then of course you could buy a bottle of wine, and the host and hostess did a really good job of making sure that we got around it, and the people were actually really good about coming over and saying, I haven't met you yet. I'm so-and-so. And it just was really nice. It very, very comfortable.
Right. And let me see, we'll probably, what about that one? Well, I don't know how to say this because I want to be honest, but I also want to be respectful. At our age, what we find is that it takes a lot of work to try to stay in condition,
Yes.
And being at our age, and we run and we work out and we try to, do what we can to, to stay fit. But when you have a crowd that's over 40, you find more people that really, and they're still wonderful people, and they interact with each other. But I think it's harder for us to find people, not that we want to talk to and get to know, but probably play with, just because of kind of how we approach that part of right. So anyway,
well, one really interesting thing is I was talking to this one guy. Actually, we saw this couple kind of over. There was like a little sofa, like wicker sofa and chair arrangement, kind of away from the table where all the food was, where a lot of the people were mingling. So we decided to go over and introduce ourselves to them. Well, they weren't married. The guy was there with his wife, but she was in another group of people talking.
Now, let me tell you something that you don't know.
What?
And this is going to go back to the first story of the first meet and greet. So I was observing the room, okay? And I saw them sitting on the sofa, and I knew they weren't together.
Oh, really?
Because she was turned and facing towards him, and she was leaning away from him. And I could tell by the way they were talking to each other that they were not husband and wife. So when I went over there, I already had figured that out. And see, that's the way that I kind of assess what's going on. And just so happens you were in another conversation and you weren't standing next to me kind of waiting for that to happen. But
well, good for you. See, that's why we're a good team.
Yeah.
So you analyze the situation, and I just stand there and yap with people.
And we did go over and talk with them, and she, we'll talk more about this later maybe, but she was a very fascinating person, and
Mr. Jones was very intrigued.
I was really intrigued with her. I mean, we talked a lot about the same things, the fundamental kind of things in life that we had both kind of shared and been through together, and she had a lot of courage because she was there by herself.
Oh, that's right.
And her husband was out of town, and she said, well, I asked him if it was okay, if I went, and he said, sure, go ahead and go. And I said, well, gosh. And she had never been before. This was her first time. I said, wow, that takes a lot of courage. And she said, well, everybody keeps telling me that, but I don't think it's that, big of a deal. So she was very, very comfortable.
She said, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? I'm in a winery, it's a public place.
Right.
And they did a really good job of advertising that this was a vanilla venue and that we were all to be on our best behavior, and people were. So she said, I didn't really feel like I was going to be molested or anything.
Right.
She said the worst thing that could happen is I decided this place wasn't for me and I could enjoy my glass of wine and come home.
Right. And I would say, well, first of all, she's very attractive, but secondly, I would say that was the most engaging conversation that I've had with anybody that I've met for the first time in the lifestyle.
Yeah, I was it was interesting watching you with her. I really enjoyed it. It was good. So the story I'm going to tell it's much more frivolous than that. So the guy that she was sitting on the couch with was married, and his wife happened to be chatting with somebody else at the time, and I hadn't made the connection because I'm not the analytical person that you are. So I started talking with him while you were talking with the other lady. And he and his wife are nudists, and they like to go to Club Orient, and they've been to Desire a lot.
Yeah.
But he was telling me about, Club Orient, because, we've never been there. We enjoy the clothing optional aspect of Desire.
We've been there.
Well, we've been there on cruise ship stopovers.
Right. We've been to that beach.
Right. We've been to Orient Beach.
Where the textiles.
I know where the textiles. That's the story I'm getting ready to tell.
Oh, sorry.
So they actually stay at Club Orient because they're nudists. So Mr. Jones and I, when we cruise, a lot of times the cruise ship will stop at St. Martin for the day, and we'll hop in a taxi and go over to Orient Beach because it is beautiful, beautiful
and
beach.
And you can go topless.
And I can go topless.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, and then we can walk over to Club Orient and we can look at all the naked people.
Yeah.
Or for $5, you can get your picture taken with that well-hung guy that hangs out there on the rocks right between the resort and the rest of the beach.
Yeah.
So
I don't think that thing was real.
I didn't see a strap on or anything, honey. I don't know. Maybe he had like an implant or something.
Sorry to interrupt your story.
Yeah, it was very stallionish.
Are you going to tell that? You have to tell that part of it now.
Okay, well, so yeah, you're not going to let me tell my story in order, are you?
Oh, no, go ahead. If you're going to get to that.
Well, I wasn't going to get to that.
No,
so,
well, then you need to tell that part of it.
So we were there one other time, and we're coming. We were just getting out of the taxi, right? We had just gotten there, I think.
We went for a walk on the beach.
Okay.
And we were in the section that we were in, the Orient Beach, where you rent chairs and you can go topless if you want to.
Right. It's
and
where all the obnoxious cruise ship people come.
Yeah, and then you walk down to the edge, and then there's a yellow flag where you go into Club Orient property.
Right.
And at that point in time, it's clothing optional.
Right. Well, no, Club Orient is nudist. They don't wear clothes at all.
But it's a public beach still, so so we can walk down that way. Well, so there's
like these huge boulders separating the rest of the beach from the private property of Club Orient.
Right.
So standing on the boulders is this naked guy, and
which is okay. I mean, there's a lot of naked people.
Yeah. So he was offering his service of you getting your picture taken with him for $5, but he was like the most ridiculously hung man I've ever seen.
It was to his knees.
It was. Yeah, it would just it would swing like a pendulum when he would walk.
I don't know. It looked like he beat it with a hammer or something. It looked swollen. But
I really didn't.
He was making money because the ladies would go up to him giggling and get a picture taken, and they were giving him tips. So he didn't have to do anything but just stand.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay.
Anyway,
so this gentleman at the winery that I was talking to, he and his wife vacation there because they're nudists. So and a lot of times they go there July 4th. Well, one time we were there July 4th. It just so happened to be July 4th when the cruise ship stopped at St. Martin. And there was a 4th of July parade from Club Orient. All the naked people at Club Orient had body painted themselves and had on like Superman capes, and they were throwing like red, silver, and blue Mardi Gras beads, and they did a parade up and down the beach.
Yes.
And it was hilarious.
Yeah, it was very entertaining.
I mean, it was amazing. The body paint was amazing. I think that was the first time I'd ever really seen body paint on a completely nude person, and it was really impressive.
Well,
they were just having a good time because they knew that they were shocking like 95% of the people on the beach.
Well, they had jewelry on.
Yeah, they were well adorned. Yes,
because we
saw piercings everywhere.
The guy had a piercing through the end of his dick, and he looked like a hammerhead shark. I mean, it just went in one side and came out the other side. As soon as I saw that made me wince and turn away. But they were very entertaining, and they had a lot of fun. Well, go ahead.
So this couple, the gentleman that I was talking to at the winery, he and his wife were in that parade.
Right.
He said, "What year was it?" I said, 2006. And he said, "We were there in 2006. He said, "We were in the parade." He said, "Oh, yeah, I forget the guy's name. He does all the body paint." He said, "We spend hours getting ready for the parade, and, we throw the beads." And I said, "Oh, my gosh, we saw you."
What was he dressed up as, did he say?
I don't remember.
Oh.
Yeah, so anyway, they were in the parade. We've seen them before.
Yeah.
That was pretty fun.
Yeah, and he called us textiles.
Yes, he said, "Oh, you were the textiles because you were the people from the cruise ship that had bathing suits on."
Yeah,
so
right.
yeah, so now you know what to call yourself, whether you're the nudist or you're the textile.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really strange.
That was.
2006 in St. Martin in that parade, and he and his wife were in it.
Yeah,
so.
He said they're there almost every year.
Yeah, we met a lot of interesting people, and the great thing about the lifestyle is people have so many really interesting stories.
I know.
Yeah. So anyway, we were glad that we went. It was really laid back afternoon, and we enjoyed meeting people. And
I think they do them like monthly, and they try to get to different wineries around the state. So that'll be fun to continue to do that and get to know them better. Okay, so segment 2, the title of our podcast this month is called Everybody is 50 Shades of Something. We said we were going to talk about 50 Shades of Gray. So, how do we want to put a slant on this? Because it's been analyzed by so many different groups of people, and most people are very, very critical of it. So Mr. Jones and I kind of just want to talk about it from our perspective and how we have read the books and seen the movie and kind of just our opinions on them and how 50 Shades in one form or another has, either contributed to our relationship or enhanced it or whatever. But, to start out, everybody is 50 Shades of something. Okay, we all know Christian Grey was 50 Shades of fucked up. That poor guy was a mess. And that's a shame because I think that's part of the reason people are criticizing it so much. They think that he wasn't mentally healthy, so therefore he was abusive. He wasn't really mentally healthy at the beginning of the story. And unfortunately, people that have only seen the movie or only read the first book don't really know the whole picture.
Right, and I think the way that you and I enjoy books and movies is that there are so many people observing it from the outside looking in, as far as it's a body of work. It's a book, or it's a movie, or it's acting, or it's or it's BDSM, or it's abuse, and looking at it from the outside in, it's easy to pick that apart. But we kind of go into we just want to.
Okay, first of all, I just wanted a sexy beach read for the summer.
I mean, we kind of just go with the story. I mean, that's the author. This was her story. She chose to write it that way. And so we like to talk more about, come from inside the story and out and talk about understanding the people and why that they are the way that they are, and try to, kind of relate to the actual story instead of picking it apart from the outside. So I read the books, of course, because all my girlfriends were reading them, and that was like the topic of conversation. And that was
at
2
work,
summers ago, right?
I think it was like 3 summers ago. It's been a long time.
Oh yeah, it was.
So I of course sucked all 3 of them down really quick because it was summertime and we were at the beach a lot. And what else are you going to do when you're at the beach? So
you remember we'd walk up and down the beach?
Yeah.
And this was before Kindles were very popular. And so you could see so many women holding their copy of 50 Shades of Grey. I mean, it was like every 4th or 5th beach chair there was somebody reading it.
One of the 3 books, definitely they were reading it. I had a Kindle, and then that was when you bought your Kindle, because I talked you into reading them.
I bought it on that trip.
Yeah, you did. We went.
Good old Costco.
Yeah. Costco comes in so handy.
Yeah.
So I talked to Mr. Jones into reading them because I'm like, you might not like the storyline, but the sex is like, pretty hot. So,
ding, 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 ding.
Okay, if you insist, I'll read them. So then he did, and then I reread them again. So we were kind of reading them.
No, you teased me about it. You suckered me into it. You said there's some really good sex in here, and if you read these, you and I can talk about that.
I did, and I meant it.
I know, but you meant the whole book.
Oh well, I mean,
I only heard sex. I'm like, well, we're going to talk about different ways to do sex. I'm in. I didn't really know anything more.
But
about
we
the
did
book.
talk about the sex too.
We did.
So anyway, I went back and read them. So we were kind of reading them concurrently. I reread them while he was reading them, and that was a really fun summer. We did talk about the sex a lot, and that was a kind of another step for us. We had talked about, I read a book on blowjobs, and then we talked about blowjobs before that, or we would read books on specific things, but just to read like an erotic story and talk about the sex they had, and especially because a lot of the sex was, BDSM type sex.
Yeah, but
we hadn't really talked about that.
We didn't even know what BDSM was then.
No.
We knew what bondage was.
Right.
So it was.
No, he had a lot of toys. I didn't know what they were. I think I had to Google some of this stuff.
Yeah, that's what he had her do.
Yeah.
If you don't know what it is, Google it.
I know. So that was kind of fun for us. So, then when the movie, when it was announced that they were going to do a movie, then it became all stirred back up again because everybody had pretty much read the books by then, and it had kind of died down. But then it got all stirred back up. Well, at our church, our pastor, when books were popular, he came out and said that, you shouldn't read the books because there's nothing healthy in those books for you to read, and there's plenty of other good books to read. And he basically just told us not to read the books. Well, he told we have a small group of couples that we meet together and we study either the Bible or, just different topics in Christianity. And all of us ladies looked at each other and we were like, he was too late. We already read them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, he not only did he say that from the pulpit, but, he wrote a blog about it.
He did. He's on fire about it.
He's mentioned it a few times.
But he hasn't read the books.
Right.
And that's kind of what I struggle with, because I feel like he's uninformed.
Right.
And that really has been the catalyst for me to be on this 50 Shades rant. If you want to criticize it, you need to be informed about it.
Right.
And then, of course, when the movie came out, he got on the same rant again about don't go see the movie, and, just going on and on and on about it. And then again, another blog about it, and a mass email to the whole congregation. And he admits he hasn't read the books, but, it's about a women being abused and dominated and all this stuff that he just doesn't, I guess, have experience with.
Right. And we didn't see her that way in the book. We talked about how it's a love story. And yes, he's fucked up, as he says. And that's why, and I give you credit for this title, because everybody is 50 Shades of something. So nobody's perfect. Everybody is formed by these things in your childhood and where you went to school and who raised you and whether you were in a church or not, a single parent family. All of these things make up who you are. And so no one has a perfect pattern for that. And so we looked at it as, here's a woman who falls in love with this guy. And the long and short of it is, he was messed up because of things that happened to him when he was a
small child.
And it involved his mother dying in front of him, and it involved another woman taking advantage of him, which influenced his kind of choice of how he could enjoy sex when he got older. And the love that they had, that eventually that's what helped him overcome that. So the way that I looked at it was, she was a strong woman. I thought, she didn't let his money, influence her. She wasn't bought. She wasn't, kind of overwhelmed by all of that part of it. She was able to be herself. And that's what really attracted her to him, was because none of that really seemed to bother her the way that, it would for most women. So I kind of viewed her as being very independent and very strong, but also very much in love with somebody who obviously was fucked up and needed somebody normal to kind of set him straight.
So I guess we feel like the book or the movie is being criticized by all these different factions of people, and every faction has valid points to make. For example, the BDSM community is criticizing it because there's not a full disclosure, full consent.
He tied the knots wrong.
Yeah, he tied the knots wrong. And honestly, Mr. Jones and I are very unfamiliar with that, so we cannot speak to that at all.
Right.
I get that. I don't think that the point of the movie was really to educate the public on BDSM. Did it kind of open people's eyes towards the possible pleasures to be had from different types of, bondage and different ways of expressing your sexuality? Yes, it did. So while it might not be true to form and accurate the way, the BDSM wants to portray themselves, at least it opens people's eyes to become aware of this type of pleasure to be had.
Right. And there were people that, criticized or didn't like the way that her writing style, and
it got on my nerves too. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
a lot of repetitive phrases, and some things didn't flow very well.
Right. But again, if you don't like the writing style, don't read the book. I
Right.
mean, she got her message out. I mean, it was successful. So obviously that didn't have
It was crazy successful.
yeah. So, so anyway, you can say what you want about her writing style, but the fact of the matter is she wrote it, she told the story, and people consumed it. So that's the reality of what this book is.
Well, the reality, and people were like, well, he was fucked up and they had to use, a kinky sex and this and that and the other. Well, that's what sold the book. I mean, if they would have written a book about Mr. Jones and I mean, it would be boring. We have great sex, but there's lots of great sex in a lot of other books. I mean, you take a 27-year-old multi-billionaire with the curly copper locks and the aloof personality, that's what's going to sell books.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the normal, having normal people do everything the right way, you're right. It would not have been as popular and it would not have sold as much as it did. And because us normal people are boring. I mean, let's face it.
I know. I don't think you're boring, and I don't think you think I'm boring, but I don't know if millions of people would want to read our story.
Yeah. And, and even the movie itself, people are, movie critics are movie critics, but, how good was the acting and how was it produced? And, I don't really, to me, that's not distracting. I thought they did a pretty good job. I really thought Anna was convincing in her role. And so I don't look at it that way. So I think you can get kind of distracted by that as well.
Right.
It's not produced very well, or it's not.
I think one of the main things that I thought about, and it's probably because I'm a woman, is, a lot of people were saying that it was a kind of an abusive relationship, and there was no consent for, the bondage issues, that came up during their sex play. But I don't know. I didn't really see it as a lack of consent. She might not have had a full understanding of what was going to happen to her, but she did trust him enough to try it.
Right.
Sometimes when you try something new, you don't know what it's going to be like until you experience it. I don't eat sushi, and that kind of drives Mr. Jones crazy because he's like, you haven't tried it. How do you know if you like it or not? And something about putting raw fish in my mouth, I just can't quite get there.
And use toothbrushes.
Well, yeah, they're like putting somebody's toothbrush in my mouth. But so I don't know if I like it because I haven't tried it. Well, it's the same thing with sex. When you try something new, you don't really know if you're going to experience pleasure from it until you try it. Getting caned, I don't know that I really would think I would experience pleasure from that.
But this is how I think that she was really, she's really a whole lot deeper character than people give her credit for, because she allowed him to hurt her. And then when he did that, she was able to explain to him why she couldn't live with that.
Right.
And you could argue that that was not consensual, but that's not what she was trying to do. She was trying to get him, she was trying to connect with him. She was trying to get him to understand why he didn't need to do that. And so she allowed him to hurt her, but she also trusted him enough to know that she really wasn't going to get hurt that badly. I mean, you could tell that he was, respectful and gentle and would have stopped if she would and cared about her.
Well, I mean, they had a safe word and she didn't use it.
She chose not to use it, right?
Right.
Right. So I think I admire her. I think that people kind of sell the character short. I just enjoyed the way, I mean, let's face it, men, we're messed up anywhere. We're blockheads, even if it's not something like, hitting somebody when you're having sex. It's, we need you women to teach us how to function in society anyway. So
that's true.
So what else about the I mean, we enjoyed the movie. The movie theater experience was kind of interesting because we noticed that, well, first of all, I don't know, that there was probably about 80% female to 20% men, and the ladies were like in clusters together, you know, kind of giggling.
It was lots of girls' nights out. Yeah, it was a Friday night.
Right. So I don't know. Do you have an opinion on that? I wonder what it is, why that is. Is it because?
Well, I was feeling pretty good about myself because I was at the movie theater with you.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was on a hot date and they were with their girlfriends, and there's nothing wrong with that. I like going out with my girlfriends too. But, you know, I got to experience it with you, and you and I got to have hot, sexy conversations on the way home about it. You could tell some of the ladies there probably didn't have a lot of experience with sexual variety, I guess. You know, so it was very titillating to them to see, you know, all the sex scenes and everything. Right. So, you know, maybe they haven't really watched porn, so that was very foreign to them.
Or maybe they have, but they just haven't been able to feel good about, feel like they could talk about it. And that, you know, and that really gets down to, you know, why it's very similar to kind of what we choose to do in the lifestyle with sharing ourselves, is because, you know, human beings are just wired that way. And you can put your head in the sand, or you can try to, or if you listen to your pastor and he says, don't read it, you can try to suppress this stuff. And in my
opinion, when he says don't read it, that makes everybody want to read it.
Well, there's that aspect of it too.
You know, I just feel like sometimes in America, you know, like drinking, you know, you can't drink until you're 21. Well, we have terrible, terrible percentages of people that drive drunk, you know, because drinking is so taboo.
Right.
And then, you know, sex is taboo in America. And then you have so many politicians getting caught doing horrible things behind their wives' backs because it's taboo. So we think we have to sneak around about it.
Right.
Of course, we're sneaking around about our activities and lifestyle, but we don't sneak around it and about it in front of each other. Right.
Yeah. I mean, so that's really, you know, one thing I noticed is that we, you know, you and I tend to fall outside the norm when it comes to, I understand, you know, when a pastor, he's talking to most of the congregation, or a movie critic, they're talking to, you know, most of their audience. But, you know, to have a relationship like ours that's strong enough, and people that get into the lifestyle, you know, the reason that you do it is because your relationship is strong and you're trying to improve it, and you're open-minded about it, and you understand that the physical compared to the emotional. And, you know, if you just try to ignore that or suppress it, you know, we shouldn't be surprised that people fall back, or whatever the word you want to use. You mentioned politicians. Why are we surprised? I mean, that's never going to change. We're human beings. That's always going to happen. And so this movie, though, what it does in this book is it gives us an opportunity to share things about the lifestyle without using the lifestyle word. So if somebody wants to talk about 50 Shades and they want to talk about the type of sex, it opens the door for a conversation, and you try to meet them where they are and have an authentic conversation with them about why they like it, why they were interested in it, and try to get them to open their minds just a little bit. And that's all. You don't really have to convince them to do anything. That's not what this is about. But
well, I mean, I can talk to my vanilla girlfriends about sex now because we can talk about 50 Shades.
Right.
You know, a lot of my girlfriends, we don't talk about that anymore. Or, you know, it's so boring. But now, you know, there's actually a topic out there that is mainstream, and you know, I can use it as a conversation starter.
Well, and like Cooper said in our interview with him, he said, you know, butt plugs and anal fisting were words that were used in the movie, and now you feel like it's okay.
Yeah.
I can actually say that in public because it was in the movie theater. So it does give you permission to kind of
saying it's okay, doing it's not.
Yeah.
At least not here.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that one. But who knows?
No. It's not okay.
Now, don't be closed-minded.
On that, I think I'm going to be. But anyway, moving on. I think that's really about all we had to say about 50 Shades. I just really, you know, kind of wanted to throw it out there since it is a way to tie, you know, our sexuality into kind of mainstream America. And
Right. And you know what? There's 2 more movies coming.
there are.
You know,
there are.
so
And again, if you haven't seen the movie, you just don't know the whole story. So just, stay tuned and keep an open mind.
Right. And when the 2 new movies come out, that's 2 more opportunities to kind of engage people in conversation, no matter how your approach is on this. So,
no, the book's not written as well as it could be. I guess the movie's not as produced as well as it could be, but
right.
just take it for what it is, and
right.
and no need to pick it apart.
Right. And I think before we close up and move on, I think it's good for us to say again that we approach this movie and this book from the same place that we approach our podcast topics, and that is how it affected our relationship, how we talked about it, what our view of it was. And so, we're not telling anybody what they should believe or what's right or what's wrong. We're just kind of approaching it the same way that we do. We're not experts in any of these fields, and the last thing that we want to do is try to, speak as representatives for certain groups, that have very strong opinions or advocates or, about these things. And a lot of them make some good points. And believe me, all you have to do is Google 50 Shades and you're going to find all these voices and blogs and articles out there if you're that interested in reading some of it. So it really has stirred up a lot of interest. And I think we choose to look at it as a positive opportunity, and, we enjoyed it.
Yep, we did. So stay tuned for the next movie. So my snapshot comes from our winery meet and greet that we just did this past Sunday. And, like I mentioned earlier, Mr. Jones met this lady, and the single lady, well, she's not single, but she was there by herself. Her husband was out of town on travel. So he met her, and he was just, I had not met her. I mean, I had been introduced to her, and then the guy that she was with, I started talking to him, the Club Orient guy. So I started talking to him, and we kind of ended up physically separating from Mr. Jones and the other lady. Kind of came around the coffee table a little bit. So just watching Mr. Jones with this other lady was just very entertaining for me, because I think he was paying 99% attention to her and 1% attention to me, which is very unusual for him. He's usually very much more, tuned into, where I am and who I'm talking to. Not that he thinks he needs to be my watchdog, but that's just kind of the way he and I are wired with each other. So he was just fully engaged with her, and I don't think it's a coincidence that she happens to be very pretty, and she seemed to be very intelligent and articulate. We learned a new word. I'm totally digressing here, but we learned a new word from Cooper, right?
Mm-hmm. It's in the Urban Dictionary.
It's in the Urban Dictionary. Well, I hadn't heard of it before, but I think Cooper had mentioned it. It's sapiosexual, right?
Yes.
And the definition of sapiosexual is somebody that is
attracted to someone's mind.
To someone's mind. So it's someone's intellect.
Right.
And I think that pretty much describes a lot of how Mr. Jones and I approach people as far as how we're interested in them. Of course, we're interested in how they look and their body language and and their personalities. But I think we're both very much attracted to people that are intellectual and that we can actually have a conversation with.
And I think we need to clarify intellectual.
Not nerdy,
well,
although
no,
I am kind of a nerd.
No, that's not what I mean. No, the word intellectual can sometimes conjure up, better than somebody else or smarter than somebody else. And it's not that at all. It's sharing what you believe and why you believe it. And it's those two things to me. And so if you say, what you're about or what you believe, and then you talk about why you're that way, that's just fascinating to me. So it's not, I just want to clarify, it's not anything about, intelligence. It's
So you don't ask somebody their IQ, huh?
no, really don't. I don't, because that, we can get into, we're digressing. I'll let you finish your.
So anyway, he was having a very intellectual conversation with this lady.
It was stimulating.
It was stimulating in more than one way, I think.
Stimulating is the right word.
A multifaceted, stimulating conversation. So I just, I found that to be very entertaining. And so at the same time he's having this conversation, I'm kind of left to my own devices. And I ended up talking to this guy that had visited Club Orient. And then this other guy came over and we started talking to him. And then the next thing, I was standing there talking to 4 guys. It was just me and 4 guys. And at one point, I had already had a couple glasses of wine by then. And I'm just standing there. And the guys were all talking. And I was just kind of taking it all in. I'm standing there thinking, this is kind of like a meat market, and I feel like I'm in the display case.
Well, you were the fresh meat.
I was the fresh meat. We were the new couple there.
Right. I think I tried to glance your way once, and I couldn't even see you because there were so many men around you. And I said, oh, well, she can take care of herself.
So it was fun. I think their wives had migrated out. It was a beautiful day that day. And there was a really nice front porch on this winery, a really big front porch. And I think a lot of the ladies had migrated out there to soak up the sun.
Right. Well, but let me add something to that. That would not happen in a vanilla world. Well, it could, but here's what didn't happen. The 4 wives of those 4 men were just fine.
Right. They did not come and claw my eyes out.
Right.
I ended up talking to all of them before the afternoon was over.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'm biased, but you're really extremely beautiful and attractive.
Well, thank
you. And obviously these guys saw the same thing, but
they just saw fresh meat. I was just a girl.
I mean, so not only do I feel, safe in environment, and I know that they're not going to do anything disrespectful. And I know you can, but I also know that their wives are perfectly fine with it.
No, they were, and they were all wonderful. I eventually ended up meeting all 4 of them. Oh, there you are. I haven't had a chance to introduce myself yet. And
okay,
but it was really.
So your snapshot is there, and they were, a couple of them were pretty tall, a lot taller than me.
And I'm not very tall, right. So yes, I definitely felt like I was the specimen.
Yeah, I think you were enjoying that part of it.
I was.
Yeah. Okay, so my snapshot is from the marriage conference that we went to. We stayed in a hotel room unlike any that we've ever stayed in before, because my sister-in-law was like diamond status with this hotel chain, and she was able to get us a suite. And we usually skimp on the hotel room, because when we go to Desire and places like that, we don't spend a lot of time.
No, we're out and about.
We don't spend a lot of time in the room, so we always justify, getting the smallest room and spending our time, outside. Although
we have a badass balcony booked for our cruise in a couple of weeks. Yes, we do.
Well, that's
but anyway,
the balcony.
Sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, we get on the elevator, and the front desk person said, "Well, you're in a suite." I said, "Okay, well, so what? I mean, embassy suite. So what's a suite? I mean, everybody uses that word." So we go up to the top level of the hotel. And we walk all the way down to the end of the hall.
We had 2 room numbers. That was the first clue.
Yeah, we had 2 room numbers. And we turned the corner, and we had double doors into our room. And you open those double doors, and it was like a party room. I mean, there was sofas.
It was the whole end of the hotel room. The whole end of the building was like our room.
Right. There was a huge flat screen TV. There was a Bose surround sound system. There was windows all along the wall that had window seats, lounges next to them.
And we were on the 14th floor, so we had a beautiful view of the city.
Yeah, and there was a bar, and there was 2 bathrooms, and this was before we even got into the other part that was actually the bedroom, which was nice in and of itself. So the 2 of us had this whole suite.
And we were like, damn, this is a vanilla weekend.
I know. It would have been...
And it was the best hotel room. We could have had the best play
party. That's the first thing we thought of was, oh my gosh, we could have a heck of a swinger party in this place. That's not my snapshot. But anyway, and we really took advantage of it. I mean, we spent a lot of time in there because there was some homework that you had to do on this weekend. And
we had brought some wine and some liqueur 43.
Right. So anyway, they gave us homework, and we all went out to dinner together. Saturday night was date night. We had a wonderful dinner and came back and went back to the room, and you went and changed into your lingerie.
We had homework to do.
Right, we had homework to do. And there was a desk in the room. And
like a beautiful and nice big executive desk.
Right, I was fiddling around with the stereo or something trying to get it to work. In the meantime, you had changed and you came back and you sat in the desk chair in an executive chair.
And he's still fiddling with the Bose system.
Yeah, so you're in, and the outfit that you had on, and I'm probably going to do it. Actually, I took a picture of it. You won't let me post it on the website because
I
it's
won't.
too risque.
Sorry.
It's like a bra and panty set, but it's got a very thin.
It's a teddy.
No. Don't use that word because it wasn't a teddy. It's a bra and panty set with a very, very thin strip of material that connects the center of the bra down the center of your belly to the bottoms.
Yeah.
Okay, so and you sat down in that executive leatherback chair, and you put your reading glasses on, and you
that was sexy.
No. If you ever watch any porn, have you watched porn?
Yes, I have.
Okay, this is the episode where, like, the secretary gives the boss a blowjob. You're sitting at an executive desk. So let me finish my story.
Okay, sorry.
And you've got this outfit on, and you have your reading glasses down on the edge of your nose, and you've got your wine glass in your hand, and your homework out, and your pencil, and your legs crossed like you're ready to do work.
And I'm waiting for him to finish fiddling. And then finally I said, "Excuse me, the CEO is calling the meeting to order." And he turned around and he said, "What?" And then he was like, oh.
Yeah, oh. So the image of you in that outfit sitting behind that desk with your glasses on conjured up a few scenes that I've seen in movies before. And, anyway, we quickly dispatched of the homework. And
no, I made Mr. Jones do the homework first.
Yeah.
Little anticipation never hurt anybody.
Yeah. And we could talk about that, but I know we want to talk about that in another episode because we used all the homework time to talk about lifestyle stuff.
Yes, we did. This is the third time we had been to this conference. We had pretty much covered everything.
Right.
We figured out we have a great marriage.
So I don't know. I might be able to edit that picture to a point where you might let me at least put it on Cassidy or something.
Yeah. Yeah, you could put it on Cassidy.
Okay. Well, anyway, that was quite an image, and you sitting in that huge suite with the music playing and in your outfit was quite the snapshot. So.
Yes.
So those are our snapshots for this week. The other thing that we want to do before we close, we've been sharing listener questions and listener feedback. And not last episode, the last episode where we talked about you know what? We need to tell everyone what you did to our profile after our last.
Oh, right. So, I had this moment, in the middle of recording our podcast, I'm thinking to myself, you dummy, if you don't want people with a no kissing rule to contact you, you need to put, I like to kiss in my profile.
Right.
So after we finished podcasting, I was like, Mr. Jones, we need to change our profile. And he's like, "What do you mean?" And I said, "We need to say something in there that we really like to kiss."
Right.
And he was like, "Oh, that's a really good idea." Right. So we did. We went in there and put it in there twice so that people could, really kind of pick up on that.
But that's not all you changed.
I know. So then we also changed our profile to say full swap situational.
Right.
So we haven't done anything about it yet, but
right.
At least it's in writing now.
But I think everyone needs to understand that it was the conversation that we had in episode 5 that led us to do that. So, just having that conversation, and it didn't have to be on the podcast, but the fact that we had that conversation when we got to the end and talked about it a little bit more and decided to change our profile, that was a pretty big step. And so I think what we're saying is exactly that, that we are going to look for the right couple and the right situation. Well, we're not going to look. If that occurs again, or the first time, I guess, then we are prepared to full swap if the situation is right.
Yep.
So, and that was before we got any feedback.
Yes, and then.
Oh, wait a minute. There's another funny story.
What? So
you told the story in episode 5 about the gentleman that you wanted to full swap with. Well, he listened to the podcast And we were out to dinner that night that we went out to dinner with the other couple that we were talking to you about earlier. And I get this text and I said, who is this from? And he said, hey, Mr. Jones, this is from We Met You at Desire. I'm pretty sure that Mrs. Jones just talked about me. And I said, yes, it seems like you have some unfinished business to take care of. So, and then you couldn't remember how explicit that you were.
I know. I had to go back and listen to episode 5 again. And then I was like, oh my gosh.
So I told you were going to hear from him if you listened to that podcast, because he knows he's missed his opportunity.
I know. So everything happens for a reason. And I think they became members down there at Desire, didn't they? So they'll probably be there a lot.
Yeah, they probably will.
So chances are we'll...
you may get your chance.
Yeah. That would not be a bad thing.
So we digressed again. So anyway, what we want to do is we did get a lot of feedback, and we appreciate the feedback that we got. And I'm just going to take a minute to, instead of share other questions, share some of the feedback, because, you'll be able to tell that people really put some thought behind this. So I'm not going to read them all, but we just picked a few out. And I'm not going to disclose any names because I didn't, ask permission. But anyway, so one email we got says, love the podcast. One of the most intelligent and articulate out there. And I have to read this part. Helps that we're in the same age demographic and that Mrs. Jones has the sexiest voice on iTunes.
Thank you, Mr. Listener.
Yes. The chemistry, love, and genuine fondness you two share. Boy, we have some people fooled. Is exceedingly
no, we don't.
Is exceedingly evident. I enjoyed your soft versus full episode. Since finding a 4-way attraction makes full swapping difficult, have you thought about or discussed threesomes? Both of you seem highly compersive, and compersive means the opposite of jealousy. That means you actually enjoy watching your spouse and you love them more for observing them with somebody else. So it's the opposite of jealousy. Both of you seem highly compersive, and any jealousy issues arising from the temporary unfairness of the arrangement could be talked through afterwards. I know he particularly enjoys seeing her pleasured, and this might be a new and easier way to play. So I'm going to put you see, last episode you put me on the spot.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell you that I was going to do this tonight, so I want to put you on the spot.
Okay.
Have you thought about or discussed threesomes?
Well, is it going to be male, female, male, or is it going to be male, female, female?
Well, I want to hear your opinion about male, male, female.
Well,
or male, female, male, however it goes.
I think it has to be male, female, male
MFM.
if the men are not bisexual.
Okay.
So anyway, I would not be opposed to that, but we have to be full swap first. And we're not yet.
Well, why do you say we have to be full swap first?
Because I think for the single male to really be an active participant, I think you have to have options, as far as things that you can do. So I really, and honestly, the single male, I would think the majority of single males out there are interested in playing with couples where they can be in a full swap situation. That's just my assumption.
Oh no, I think we're saying the same thing. I'm saying that a threesome would be, in my definition of a male, female, male, mm-hmm. both males have penetrative sex with you.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not opposed to that down the road, but we haven't full swapped yet. So would that be the way you would want to start out, by watching me?
Well, see, you're asking me. I'm asking you, because I told you before that the thing that interests me about male, female, male is that I'm involved. And with full swap with two couples, I'm not involved with you. But with a male, female, male, I am.
Right.
So.
But then I have to work through my issues, because then I'm going to have these insecurities about I'm getting to do something that you don't get to do. And then I'm going to have it's going to be like a guilty pleasure. And then I have to process all that. So I don't know. It's that whole risk and reward thing.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not opposed to it, but I don't know that that's the way I'd want to start our full swap experience.
Okay, fair enough. All right, let me go to another comment that we had on our blog. I heard about your podcast while listening to another podcast. I've only had the chance to listen to the last one uploaded and thoroughly enjoyed it. As far as the kissing goes, I don't think you should settle for less. Kissing is a thing that gets my coals burning too, and I would not want to compromise that for anyone. I like that you guys have followed your inner guidance about how fast or how slow you will go. The lifestyle is so multidimensional and there is no one size fits all. You guys relate your sexual escapades in a very intelligent and sensual manner, and I appreciate that. So that was really good feedback. And as a side note, he goes on to say, I'm curious, do you guys only play within your race? Perhaps this is something you can talk about in your future episodes, which we may, but that was kind of a separate question. So anyway, good feedback there. Let me see. That was the other podcast. Okay, hi there, guys. We are a married couple that has fantasized about dipping our toes in the lifestyle for years, but at least so far we've simply decided to live those fantasies vicariously. That being said, we found your podcast online the other day and saw... Oh, okay, I'm sorry. That was the one he recommended that we spell out "we got a thing" so that people would know. I didn't mean to read that one, but okay, here's one. We're loving your podcast so far and hope you keep it up. You asked for some feedback on a couple things, so here's our 2 cents. Kissing. We started out with that rule too, based on her desire and stemming from the intimacy thing that so many share. That didn't last too long, and looking back, it probably was really just a way to hold on to something of her own until the comfort level with everything else was there. Since we came in that way and others put up with us, we do the same for anyone new that we come across, if that's their rule, but in hopes that they quickly get over it. Kissing is such a natural part of the whole act, and we don't like having a list of rules that everyone has to keep track of, but until everyone is comfortable with those rules, we feel like they have to be honored. So I thought that was a good...
That's a very good way to put it, yeah.
To put that one, yeah. And on full and soft swap, you said something along the lines of, once you go full, how do you tell someone you only want to soft swap with them? Simple. It's your body. Do what you want with it. We have on our profile that we full swap, but that's neither required nor guaranteed. It's no different than any other swinging situation that you negotiate. Everyone gets a say what they want to do. And if you only want to soft that night, then that's it. Don't feel like that bridge is only one way. Once you cross it, you're allowed to go back and forth whenever you want. So again, very, very good feedback. And you know, another reason why we're sharing this is because it's been helpful to us, but it's probably helpful, you know, for others as well. Okay. Here's the feedback from the couple that we met at the meet and greet that were fans of ours. So, and he gave us this feedback before he knew who we were. So,
oh, that's right.
Yeah. No kissing makes no sense to us anyway. We've met a few people that had that rule but quickly dropped it. Kissing has been an integral part of our flirtation with other couples. When we go to any meet and greet, we actually meet a new couple. One of the factors that plays a role in whether we may pursue anything further is a kiss. Just our 2 cents. Loving the podcast. And so you did kiss him.
I did kiss him. So we were talking to them, and we had met them at the very first, at the Girls Uncorked meet and greet. And then we saw them again at the meet and greet a couple weeks ago and put 2 and 2 together. And they figured out that we were the We Got a Thing podcasters. So we were, and he said something about, you know, that no kissing rule is bullshit or something. So we were kind of joking around about that. And he was talking about our podcast. And so they were leaving, they needed to go to the bar and get another drink. So they were walking away. And I said, wait a minute. I said, so remember, I have no kissing. I don't have a no kissing rule. So I reached over and gave him a big old kiss, and he was
Right.
actually a really good kisser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the last one that I want to share, and I know that I can share his name because this is Jay from Average Swinger.
This is going to be entertaining.
Yeah. Feedback on full swap. If you do it with two different couples, it will no longer be a big deal anymore. Just like soft swap isn't a big deal. But as there is no right or wrong way to swing, you guys never have to do full swap if you don't want to. Jay likes to act like he's not that intelligent, but he really is.
He's got it figured out.
He does.
He really does.
Even though he's a tater, he does have it figured out. So
Well, he's got it figured out, and he and Angie, you can just tell by listening to them. And of course, we got to meet them for a few minutes at Naughty New Orleans last year. They have a great relationship, and you can tell that they're really tuned into each other.
right.
So he acts like a goofball, but I think he's pretty much got it together.
Right. So thanks, Angie. You've done a very good
Yes.
job with. We're gonna give
Way
you
to train him, Angie. Good,
Yeah.
good job, girl.
Yeah. So that was really we got more feedback than that, but those are the ones I kind of picked out, and I was just kind of taken aback because people really took the time and gave us some thoughtful and helpful,
Yes.
very helpful feedback. So this is. We're still fairly new at not only the lifestyle, but at podcasting. And so we just appreciate the fact that people took so much time to thoughtfully share their comments. And on that note, anytime you comment or send us an email, you're going to hear back from us right away, because I think, feedback and dialogue is a part of this kind of two-way communication and relationship. So thanks everyone who sent feedback.
Yes.
It was really... Your picture must have done the trick. And the fact that you changed our profile, that made some progress there.
I don't know. It's so funny. When we were changing, I'm like, why didn't we think of that before?
Yeah.
You just have one of those aha moments finally.
Right. So
as you guys have figured it out, we're just kind of slow. It takes us a while to figure stuff out.
We're deliberate.
Oh, okay.
We're deliberate.
If you want to put it that way, you go
that
right
sounds
ahead.
Better. So as we approach closing, do we want to? I have to give you. This is a brilliant idea you have for episode 8. Do you want to try to describe it?
Well, we were coming home. Well, okay, we were making the mad dash from the Vanilla Marriage Conference to the Swinger Meet and Greet on Sunday, and we were talking in the car about lessons learned from the conference and kind of how we were going to manage the meet and greet, and I was just, my mind was constantly switching back and forth from a very, vanilla type experience to, going into another lifestyle experience. And I said, you know what, we need to, because we're getting ready to go to Catalyst Con in
a week.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's next weekend. And we are very excited about that. So that's going to be a very 180 degree different experience from what we just experienced at a Christian marriage conference that we went to last weekend. So I want to kind of do a compare and contrast, because I don't think the underlying message is going to be that different.
Right.
Because it's all about a healthy relationship is a relationship where you're honest with yourself and where you communicate with your partner.
Right.
Period.
Right. So we're going to take our experience from the Vanilla Marriage Conference, and we're going to take our experience from Catalyst Con, and we're going to draw some comparisons for you and talk about that in episode 8. And we're hoping we think that's going to be really interesting. At least it's going to be interesting for us. Anyway.
Yes, it is.
And we're looking forward to, I think Life on the Swing Set is going to be podcasting live from Catalyst Con. And we're going to meet some people that, that we've been looking forward to meeting from sex positive community that we've heard about or read their blog. So we're looking forward to that very much.
Yep.
So
that's next weekend. And then the weekend after that, we get to go on our vanilla cruise.
Oh, speaking of feedback.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the plans have changed slightly.
Yeah. So there's some more feedback that we got.
Yeah.
Because a couple that listened to us from Miami said, hey, before you go to Trapeze on Friday night, you might want to check the calendar, because there's single males there that night, and sometimes they have theme nights. And if you've never been there before and you only have a limited amount of time, be sure you understand what you're walking into, because Saturday night is typically a more comfortable night for couples.
Yeah.
So we did that, and we looked into it, and we weren't going to be landing until like 9 or 9:30, and to pay that fee to get in trapeze and then not have it be.
Well, didn't you say that it was like gangbang night?
Well, no, that's what he said. There was a theme one Friday when they went.
Oh,
That
okay.
was that.
Yeah.
So we decided
That was a little off-putting for me.
Yeah.
So, since I haven't even full swapped yet, the whole gangbang thing
right.
sounds intriguing in my head, but in reality, I don't know if I'm ready for it.
Right.
No, I know I'm not ready for it.
So instead of doing that, we're just going to go to Miami and stay overnight in a hotel in Miami and go out on the cruise the next day. So anybody in Miami that wants to get together for a late drink on Friday night, give us a...
Yeah, April 3rd is when we're flying in.
Let
yes.
us know. But anyway, what led me to recall that was a few weeks ago we went to Ohio to visit family, and on Twitter I put out something that we were in Ohio, and I had 2 or 3 different couples from Ohio and Western Pennsylvania reach out to us and say, "Hey, what part of Ohio are you in?" And we were in the southwestern part of the state, so we weren't close enough to visit anyone. But I thought, well, man, dang, we're using this podcast the wrong way. We just need to tell people where we're headed and see if we get invitations, all along. We could probably travel across the country and just get people to say.
So if anybody's going on a cruise out of Miami on April 4th,
yeah,
and you don't have a black ring on, let us know ahead of time, because we're going to be looking for black rings. But if you let us know ahead of time, we could.
Even if you're taking your family we'll help sneak you out.
Yeah.
After 9 or 10 o'clock.
Yeah, they have kids clubs for that.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that's probably going to happen. That'll be before our next podcast. We'll podcast again at the end of April.
But we're have a couple dinners lined up between now and then.
Possibly a dinner party and a couple dinners. Yep. So anyway, that pretty much wraps everything up, right?
I think it does.
Okay.
I don't think so.
So again, if you want to contact us, please do through email is the best at wegotathing, and that's all one word, wegottathing@gmail.com. You can certainly comment on the website, but if you want to have a back and forth dialogue, send us an email. That's the best way to reach us and communicate with us. Again, our website is wegotathing.com, and Twitter @wegotathing. Okay, so let me tell this demographic. If you're over 40, you need to get a Twitter account. And I have to admit, I had one before but didn't really use it, and I'm having so much fun with the We Got a Thing Twitter account. And,
I know. Every night at dinner, I'm like, honey, what was the tweet of the day?
I try to come up with a creative tweet every day, and you really, if you want to get to know us better, and a lot of people will do an anonymous Twitter account and only follow, podcasters or, whoever it is that, you keep it separate from your main account. So those of you who are afraid of technology or are the late adopters, I encourage you to open up a Twitter account and request to follow us, and you can keep up with us that way. So it's been a lot of fun. So anything else, Mrs. Jones?
I don't know. I think we about wrapped it up for tonight.
Okay, well, thanks for listening. Again, we are Mr. and Mrs. Jones, and we got a thing.
What's your thing?
I can't believe you forgot about the story about the guy with the long schlong.